So IAOCR was founded to verify the competence of people working in clinical research. Prior to IAOCR, everybody was focused on education, training and experience, which is the requirements of ICH GCP, and that's great, but education, training and experience does not ensure that people are competent, and the expectation from patients is that people conducting clinical research on them and their families are competent and can do their jobs properly.
So yes, been an advocate for this for a long time. My background in manufacturing, where we had competence assessments, etc., run by the company themselves. So, you know, ex-SIBA, Novartis, we had competency frameworks that we'd train people to in manufacturing. Then when you flip to the clinical side, there is no framework. So driving the competency, I think that framework build out and the push for competency in a much more kind of nebulous environment than a manufacturing facility, a clinical trial, you know, clinical research in general, there's a gap. I think IAOCR really fills that space with the ability to build you a framework, to have it independently recognised, to have your team accredited, so you know when they're out in the field, they're not going to take shortcuts, they're going to do things to the right level in the way that they've been trained to do so.
Competence verification reduces risk because obviously if you know exactly what you're doing, there's going to be less errors. And most of that fails because people don't follow the protocol. They don't follow the investigational plan, and there are protocol deviations. And because of that, that puts the safety at risk of the patient and of the data. So actually having the competency accredited demonstrates that people know what they're doing and they will follow the plans, and therefore that's not putting it at risk.
Ultimately, it's to look at patient safety. And what that means is really trying to reduce the risks and making that individuals that are helping and supporting clinical trials, because it's a spectrum, it's a system, that they are protected, that they're getting the best credible data. That it's ethically important as well that patients are treated by professionals who are trained and competent. And it's all part of learning and sharing best practice and making sure we're evolving our medical understanding by sharing ideas and thoughts and best practice with individuals.
So I think it's really important for NHS staff to demonstrate to industry that we're all working to the same standards, which at the moment we can't do, because if you look at different NHS organisations, the competency framework is different within each organisation. To have a standard approach across our NHS organisations is hugely important, and that's why I got involved in the task force.
In order to ensure that your patients are safe in the nature of the business that we're involved in clinical research, you need to be sure that people are consistently following the same process. And unless that is actually checked, and rather than assumed, there is no certainty that that's the case. So from a strategic point of view, if a trial goes wrong, it's not about just reputation. More importantly, it's about a patient's life that could be at risk. So it's about risk management, and it's about risk mitigation, and it's about doing the right thing.
I believe that there is a desire by all institutions that do research to do it well. I think that's absolutely a premise that they have. But I think there's pressures on those research facilities, on those staff, to reach sometimes nearly impossible targets. And they're driven by the need to be quick, to recruit quickly, and to get studies done within a time frame that the sponsor feels is necessary. And those are the pressures that will put risk into clinical research. And that's why we need to ensure that the staff that are managing the clinical research have that confidence, have the behaviours they know they must follow to do research safely.
I think the key values that it brings is it shows the organisational recognition for staff and the importance that they play in delivering clinical research. And also it gives that professional identity to their roles, which I think will be remarkably change that face of clinical trials and clinical research delivery staff if they have that recognised professional status, such as what nurses and doctors may have as well.
I think from an industry perspective, certainly from my position as a former CEO of Syneos, it was all about how do we do this the most effective and efficient way. Getting people who are strong individually, in teams, working well, doing things right first time, getting studies launched properly, executing the protocol, making sure that at the end of the trial, the data that we have is in good shape, the materials that we have are in good shape, ready for submission. Saves you a lot of rework. You can redeploy those folks quickly into other projects. And you know, the teams work well together when they know what they're doing. So it just makes sense from a business perspective as well as from that quality and overall satisfaction.
It feels great that people, I think, are starting to really understand why competence verification is really important. I think there's more of an industry understanding now that training is not the same as ensuring people are competent, which is great. I think for myself personally, I've been on this journey for 15 years or more now, and it's not something I'm going to give in on, but it also can be very frustrating at times when you see that that there's risk in the industry because of the way the industry conducts itself.